Yeah.
You also have another website, the I've Got a Secret fan website. Tell us about that.
Yes, thank you so much because that's crazy before your time. The beauty of
Oh
this,
yeah.
it's crazy before my time. But I am passionate about the old panel show I've Got a Secret. The original version ran from 1952 to 1967, and it, like a lot of shows, was revived several times after that. It's not so much for it being a game show. In fact, it
Nope.
being a game show is one of the least interesting things about it. What I find interesting about it is that it is a snapshot of the culture of the time, popular culture, news, what was happening during that period is represented on that game show because the producers of the show, were always trying to find things that were interesting to the public. So
Yeah.
if something had happened in the news, they would have a guest who had something to do with that something in the news. If you heard about somebody who had done this weird thing, well, that somebody might be a contestant on next week's show. So they kept their ear to the ground on what the people like to hear about. What my
Okay.
website does is captures all of that and sort of explains in absurd detail what was going on during that period. It's more of a cultural thing than it is a game show thing. But you can look it up. You can look up celebrities and when they were on the show. You can look up any number of things. I've had sons and grandsons and daughters and granddaughters of contestants reach out to me and
Wow.
saying, "Hey, do you happen to have this episode?" And I've collected anything that GSN or Buzzer has run, and I also know where you can get access to other episodes, so I can sometimes point them in the right direction if it's not one that I have. But a lot of times I've been
Okay.
able to help them, and that's a really fun thing. So this website, I love organizing things. So it's an
Yeah. Same.
episode guide, and it's a history lesson, and there are some specific things that I go on and on about in the website. People ask me why it isn't a book. Right now, it would be the size of about two books because of just the content that's in it. Plus, I'm always updating it with new information when new information comes around. I had a dear friend over the holidays go to the Library of Congress just
Huh.
to watch some shows for me that GSN never played, and he took
Oh
notes, and
wow.
and then he sent me what the shows, what happened on those shows, and they go on the website. So it's a
Okay.
passion project, and I realize not as many people are necessarily as interested in that as a lot of other much more popular game shows, but it's fun for me. I really enjoy doing it, and it does have some benefits.
Oh yeah. And my favorite uh guest who was on I've Got a Secret
Uh-huh.
is the last witness to Abraham Lincoln's assassination, which was very something.
It's weird, isn't it, that somebody could have
Yeah.
been alive in 1865 and have been on television in, I think it was 1955. Obviously, he was very, very
Yeah.
young. On the website, I have in the history section, I do little essays about some of these individual things, and that's one. I learned a whole lot about Mr. Seymour and
Okay.
his life, and some stuff that he might have exaggerated about a little bit, let's say. So there's a whole essay on my website about this guy, and about, it's a really great story. I'm not absolutely sure all of it is true. So it's kind of
Okay.
it's interesting that you bring him up because
Yeah.
it's a fantastic story.
Yeah.
I was telling a high school group about my interest in game shows, and about I've Got a Secret. And of course, I assume high schoolers aren't going to know about I've Got a Secret. So I'm
Yeah.
about to explain what panel shows are, much less what I've Got a Secret is. And this one guy raised his hand and said, "Oh, yeah, I've Got a Secret. That's the one that had the guy who saw Lincoln's assassination." So, in this world of YouTube, these
Yeah.
clips are out there, and people know more than you think they do. I mean, look at you.
Yeah.
You knew about this guy. And this
Yep.
aired in 1955.
Yeah. It's a very probably the most popular story on I've Got a Secret because
Absolutely.
I mean, we never see people on television who was born in 1850s unless if there was radio in 1930s or 20s, if we listened to it on the radio back then someone
Right.
from that time. But
It's
it's crazy how
remarkable that
generations.
it's remarkable how many generations can be depicted that way.
Same with Price is Right. It was aired first in 1972.
Hmm.
1872, maybe someone could be from the 1800s on that show.
Well, you're talking about the 1972 version. Bill Cullen
Yeah,
hosted a version in the 60s, and every once in a while, somebody will be on the show. I think they've had a couple of times where an
okay,
older contestant had been on Bill Cullen's version, which
yeah,
is pretty cool. It's not as remarkable as Lincoln, but
yeah,
and several times somebody will say, "Well, my mom was on that version," or whatever it would be.
yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting how time can pass.